Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Confessions of a Doctorholic. I'm Dr. Slayman, or Hafsa, and today I want to talk about a consult that left me really unsettled. Not because of what we found, but because of the questions we had to ask ourselves along the way. This is a story about when surgery can't fix it, and the moments we have to reckon with. As doctors, as humans, and as people delivering life-altering news to families. So we get a consult, bright and early, like 7 a.m., about a patient who was clearly very sick. She was hypotensive, on increased presses, her creatinine was climbing, liver enzymes were elevated, and she had just started dialysis that morning. From the jump, it didn't look good. A CT scan had already been done, and the concern was bowel ischemia. But when we got to radiology, the radiologist brushed us off a bit. Like, oh, it's not pneumatosis, it's just some air dependent on her position. We were like, okay, but her bowel doesn't look perfused. Some areas had no contrast uptake, meaning no blood flow. Other segments looked fine. It was patchy, inconsistent, and deeply suspicious. And this was a post-op cardiac patient who had already had a tough course. So we were getting pushed into surgery by the cardiac team, and we discussed it as a team. And our attending says something I won't forget. He calls the cardiology team and says, "Do you believe, really believe, that our outcome would be any different if we operate?" He kept repeating, "We need to do what's best for the patient and her family." And it stopped me in my tracks. Because as surgeons, we're trained to do. We're trained to fix. But sometimes there is no fix. Sometimes surgery would just prolong the dying process, not stop it. And you could tell the cardiology team wanted something to be done. That hopeful energy, that not me mentality. Like, well, she did fine in our part of the care, but you can't split it up like that. She wasn't doing fine. I spoke with the son. He had been told, or maybe just interpreted, that once the heart surgery was done, she'd be okay. That was the story in his head. So when I told him the reality, the state of her bowel, the risks of surgery, the likely outcome, he looked shattered. He asked, "What do you mean?" And all I could do was explain, gently but clearly, that she had multi-system organ failure, and surgery wasn't going to change the outcome. We went to the OR anyway to explore. We hoped maybe it was just a small segment, something salvageable. But when we opened her, the bowel was dilated, dusky, muddled, and in some areas pitch black. There was no clear margin to resect. No single anastomosis that would make sense. It was everywhere. I don't say this lightly, it was like watching someone already gone. We didn't proceed with surgery. We called the cardiac attending in the room and explained, "This is global ischemia. This is what it looks like. There is no single place that we can cut. She would be dependent on TPN for the rest of her life anyway, and this would prolong her dying process." So we closed. We updated her son honestly and kindly, and he knew at that point that she was going to die. It was heartbreaking. But it was also the right call. So that's the confession of the day. Not every patient needs an operation. Sometimes the most humane thing we can do is acknowledge that we can't fix it. And to be brave enough to say, "This is not survivable, and we won't make her suffer more." Thanks for being here and listening to Confessions of a Doctorholic. These are the hard stories, the quiet ones that weigh on us, but they're part of this life we've chosen. If you've ever been in that situation, having to decide when not to operate, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Send me a message on Instagram on @HafsaSlayman. Let's keep the conversation going because this job is hard and it helps to talk about it. Until next time, trust your gut, lead with compassion, and remember that doing nothing is sometimes doing the right thing. The right surgeon knows when not to operate.